50 years of my stuff, everything is gone.
Hundreds of people lose everything they own.
And our town in Waverly has been devastated. And those are the things that I can't imagine.
More than 20 people have lost their lives. Others remain unaccounted for.
There's just so many people missing right now. It's hard to have hope.
Hope, though, is something many are clinging on to as people come together to help one another after tragedy.
The outpour of love, the outpour of helping us what our needs are, it's coming in.
This is News Channel 5 at 10.
Good evening. A record 17 inches of rain falling in Middle Tennessee Saturday morning, causing deadly flooding. Now, more than 48 hours later, 12 people remain missing. Governor Bill Lee has asked the federal government to expedite a major disaster declaration for the area. The flooding impacted Humphreys, Houston, Dixon, and Hickman counties. TEMA and FEMA have been on the ground assessing the damage, the first step to determine if the areas will qualify for federal aid. And in the devastation of the deadly flooding, there were signs of hope, including one from above. We begin our team coverage tonight with News Channel 5's Jason Lamb. He talked with a man who, in a desperate situation, took risks to rescue several people stranded on their roofs.
After the rain in Waverly this weekend that caused so much heartbreak, soon came something else from the sky. Help. It came from the professional rescue crews you might expect, but it also came this past weekend in Tennessee from volunteers.
It was the worst flooding I've ever seen, and I've flown over a lot of tornadoes and flood damage and everything else. It was the worst I'd ever seen, and it was just chaos on the ground.
Joel Boyers with Hellastar Aviation got the call about people in Waverly stranded on their rooftops as the rain started flooding Humphreys County, and he flew out there into a very dangerous situation.
There's tons of power lines. The houses are on fire.
He says he began what he had to do, starting to rescue neighbors one by one.
I honestly feel like, God gives people certain skills and some opportunities to be able to use them, so I was just thankful that I was in the right place at the right time.
Joel says he knows some of his maneuvering was risky, not something a newer pilot should try, but he relied on his experience.
Yeah, I used every bit of my training that I'd ever gotten to look at situational awareness for power lines, for the amount of lift I would have, for where the wind was coming from, everything.
Joel says he counted at least 12 people he was able to save from an uncertain fate.
Some of them have reached out just to say thank you, and that was really sweet, so it was nice to hear. But I ended up turning around thanking them because, using your skill set to be able to help people out is kind of everybody's dream.
A dream for Joel and several people stranded on their rooftops this weekend that thankfully came true.
We're not helpless, that, we can band together and overcome whatever situation is kind of thrown at us.
Jason Lamb, News Channel 5.
Remarkable. Jason, thank you. This, by the way, is not only the deadliest flooding event in Middle Tennessee's history, but it is also the deadliest flooding event this year in the entire country. All right, Storm 5 meteorologist Henry Rothenberg is here with a more in-depth look at what's a really alarming stat.
Very alarming stat, Rory. Record rainfall for the state from this at over 17 inches, as Rory mentioned, shattering the old record of 13 inches. And across the country in 2021, we have seen 36 flood-related fatalities. That does not include Tennessee. Tennessee alone, 30 flood-related fatalities, with 22 of them coming from this event alone. And sadly, that number could climb as more of the missing are found. Hopefully we continue to get good news as names on that list are found, but that is why we have the asterisk on the 30 for the state of Tennessee. The rain just kept coming Saturday. It started in the morning. It dumped, again, record amounts of rainfall right over the areas of Waverly, McEwen, and really especially throughout parts of Humphreys County. And if you notice that record rain over McEwen, Trace Creek, it goes from east to west. So all of that water went downstream towards the Waverly area. And to really get in on the topography of this, Waverly is somewhat in a valley. So you get all of this water going along a creek that's cutting through town, plus these hills around and that water running off and coming into the town. And that, of course, also occurring early in the morning, starting then when many people are sleeping, is what led to this tragic event with 22 lives lost. Now, while the rain is gone, the floodwaters have receded, we have another weather concern as folks begin to sift through all the damage from this system. We'll look at what our next weather concern is coming up a little later on, Rory.
All right, Henry, thanks. Sadly, among the 22 lives lost, these 7-month-old twins. The raging current just swept into the family apartment, pulling the babies from their father's arms. Tonight, the parents recount the horrible ordeal to News Channel 5's Nick Barris and how they desperately tried to save their children.
Woke up and water was filling our apartment.
Danielle Hall and Matthew Ridgeny say it happened in just an instant at their Waverly apartment complex, just 20 feet from nearby Trace Creek. The sudden surge of water was devastating.
We heard a loud boom, and it was our door busting in, our front door. The glass shattered in the screen, and water is raging through our house.
The parents moved with their 4 children, twins Ryan and Rayliana, 19-month-old Brayla, and 5-year-old Malaya, to a back bedroom, but the water kept rising. That's when Danielle decided to climb out the window.
I was going for help. I was going to the store behind us. I didn't know it was flooded.
The floodwaters knocked her off her feet, and she barely managed to grab hold of a tree. Matthew was still inside with the children, with the water rapidly rising. You can see the final watermark here is close to 6 feet.
I had the twins in my arms like this. I had Brayla kind of on my hip like that. I had Malaya wrapped around my neck. And then the water, when it hit us, and it just pulled us under, all of us, and we were trapped underneath the bed.
And in that instant, the twins were torn from his arms. It was several hours when the water finally receded that their bodies were found still in the apartment.
I wish there was something I could have done. I wish I would have just stayed there. I didn't know if the whole house was about to collapse on us.
The twins were gone, but Matthew still had the 2 other children.
I was trying to find all of them, and Leah came up like a big girl. You swam like a big girl, and I'm so proud of you.
With the help of a neighbor, they all made it to the roof. Danielle, still clinging to a tree nearby, watched it all.
Through the trees, I seen him get on the roof, and I didn't see my babies, and I was screaming, please tell me that they're alive.
She didn't know what happened until she was rescued by a boat.
That was one thing I did not want to, I dreaded telling my wife, was that I didn't have all 4, like I failed them.
But first responders say not Matthew or anyone else could have prepared for the force of that flash flood or what the deadly waters would do.
Never, ever imagined we would be burying 2 babies that are 7 months old.
Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
All right, Nick. The family moved into that apartment just 2 weeks ago. There is a GoFundMe account now active for them. A link to donate is on newschannel5.com. You know, Sky 5 captured a bird's eye view of the extensive damage all throughout Humphreys County. Tonight, News Channel 5's Emily Luxon shows us what people in Waverly face in the days ahead.
Before the sunset on another day of recovery efforts, we got an aerial view from Sky 5 of some of the spots hit the hardest.
Right now, I close my eyes and I can't get over the devastation.
The damage stretches for miles. Homes forced off foundations, power lines knocked down, and debris fills the roads. But as people in Waverly try to assess what's left behind, officials say the outpouring of support has been incredible.
Our people need help. We're going to be overwhelmed for the next probably 30 days at least, overwhelmed.
Search and rescue teams scoured the area again for missing people in hopes of reuniting them with loved ones.
They've been a little slower going because we're dealing now with debris that we have to move.
An 8 p.m. curfew will remain in effect for the coming days in Waverly, and law enforcement officers from across the area will help enforce it.
Folks, their houses are vulnerable right now, and their property is vulnerable, and we're going to do our best to make sure nobody messes with it.
While the recovery will take time, people across Humphreys County remain hopeful.
We're going to hear stories and see things that sometimes I wish I could forget. But to hear the good things, and we try to concentrate on those good things.
And with the help of city and county leaders and volunteers, everyone hopes better days will be ahead. Emily Luxon, News Channel 5.
You know, when a natural disaster happens to you, you're often not thinking clearly, and that means scammers have an easier time taking advantage. What to look out for so you don't lose any more than you already have.
Heat and humidity moving into the mid-state. That will be a concern as folks clean up after the flooding. Details are straight ahead. You're watching News Channel 5 at 10.
All right, now back to our continuing coverage of the deadly floodings. One of those victims Saturday was Regina Brake. She and her son, Cameron Guy, were hanging onto pool floats when the strong current separated them. Cameron was rescued as he hung onto a tree. He said the power of the water was so dangerous his rescue boat was stuck for hours before they could break free. Regina was pulled under, her body eventually found downstream.
I just want people to know that she was not just another body that was found. Her name is Regina Lynn Brake.
You know, we lost the love of our life. We lost our best friend.
She was the best mama ever. I'm going to miss my mama, and I'm going to think about my mama every day for the rest of my life.
Regina's funeral is planned for this Saturday. As usual, when tragedy hits our state, Tennesseans immediately show up to help. Many victims spent the weekend at Waverly Church of Christ seeking shelter. Thanks to donations and services from the Red Cross, the National Guard, and all the volunteers, there are now more than enough supplies. There are also nurses and mental health professionals to help people process the tragedy.
Everything we own is in my truck right now. That's it. I mean, the one thing I found, my grandson found when we went back, was my Social Security card and my birth certificate. And that's the only, and my ID is the only thing that proves who I am. That's it. Everything else is gone. 50 years of my stuff, everything is gone. My wife, too. It's hard to deal with, but, you know, you do what you got to do.
It is not clear right now how long that church will serve as a shelter. One of the best ways you can help right now is to make a tax-deductible donation to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. You can scan this QR code right now on your screen. It'll immediately take you to newschannel5.com. That's where we've posted a link where you can donate. And right now, the best way to help is with money. If you can't donate money, we also have information posted on how to donate items and how to volunteer to help with the cleanup. And that cleanup and recovery will likely take months. And while we're just a couple of days out from the tragedy, scammers are already preying on their next victims. The Waverly Department of Public Safety, Police and Fire says home repair scammers are already in town trying to take advantage of those who've lost everything.
We're just hearing about, I guess for lack of a better word, shady contractors, folks that are maybe want payment up front or that are just, we don't know who they are. They've just popped in here maybe trying to take advantage of the situation.
The Humphreys County Sheriff says he's also hearing reports of wreckers coming in from out of town to try to help people. And they say while the help is appreciated, those wreckers haven't coordinated with deputies. They also say some of the wreckers will likely take your vehicle to their lot out of town, which could pose issues for you after it's removed. All right, some things you can do to make sure you don't get scammed. One of the most important is to make sure the contractor you hire is licensed before starting the bidding or price negotiation process. Tennessee Department of Commerce has a search feature where you can check if a contractor is licensed. You'll also want to get several bids and check references. Once you've selected a contractor, make sure you get the payment terms in writing and don't pay more than 1/3 of the cost up front. More tips for you to help keep you safe posted right now on newschannel5.com. For those who lost everything in the floods, that likely included forms of identity. It's why the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security will set up a mobile driver services unit at McEwen High School. You can go there and get a duplicate or photo ID starting tomorrow. That will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. through Friday. We know the flooding not only impacted a lot of people, but also their pets. And the Nashville Humane Association has already used its transport van to rescue several dogs. NHA is also helping supply wire crates for pets. At least 4 dogs have been brought back to the shelter here so far. And if you need help with your pets, McEwen High School, again, the place to go. Nashville's Agape Animal Rescue dropped off supplies for you there.